I have been back home for 6 weeks now. I sleep with every light on. I've covered every window in my house with blackout curtains nailed to the frames. Not because of what I saw in Millhaven, but because of what happened the moment I looked, and what has been standing outside my window every single night since I got back. Still waiting, still watching, for me to look again. I want to start by saying that Millhaven is not on any map I've ever been able to find. I have searched Google Maps, I've searched satellite images, I've typed the name into every database and directory I could access. Nothing, which is strange, because I spent 4 days there last October. I have photographs, I have a receipt from the only gas station in town with the address printed at the top. And I have something else. Something I have not been able to explain to a single person since I got back. I'm going to try to explain it now. I ended up in Millhaven because of a wrong turn. I was driving through a rural countryside on my way to visit my sister 3 states away. Long drive. Nothing unusual, but somewhere around hour 6, I missed a junction and my GPS rerouted me through a stretch of back roads I had never seen before. Narrow, unpaved in places, the kind of roads that feel like they were never meant to be found. I drove for 40 minutes through nothing, then the road widened slightly, and there were houses. Small, old, well kept in the way that things are kept when people have nothing else to do but maintain what they have. White fences, neat yards, curtains in every window. A sign at the edge of town read, "Welcome to Millhaven. Population blank." The population number had been scratched out with something sharp, gouged into the wood repeatedly, until whatever number had been there was completely illegible. I did not think much of it at the time. The air was different there, heavier than it should have been, like the atmosphere itself was slightly denser. Like each breath required a fraction more effort than it normally did. I told myself it was elevation, or humidity, or 6 hours of recycled air conditioning. I told myself a lot of things in Millhaven. The man behind the counter was old, 70s maybe, weathered, creased, deeply lined around the eyes. He watched me come through the door with an expression I could not immediately read. Not unfriendly, not friendly either, just watchful. The way an animal watches something enter its territory and has not yet decided what to do about it. I was almost at the door when he said, "You staying tonight?" I told him I was planning to keep driving. He nodded slowly, like I had given the right answer to a question he asked everyone who came through. "Good," he said. "Don't stay after dark." I waited for an explanation, a reason, a smile that would tell me he was joking. "Nothing. Is there a reason? Just don't," he said. And he turned away in a way that made it absolutely clear the conversation was over. I told myself I was going to keep driving right up until the moment I saw the motel. Single story, 8 rooms, a vacancy sign with 2 dead letters, so it read, "Vacancy." I was exhausted. 6 hours behind me and 4 more ahead. I pulled in. One night, just sleep. Leave at dawn. Easy. The woman at the motel desk gave me a key, and then before I could leave, she recited the rules. Not a warning exactly, more like something being read from memory. We ask that guests keep their curtains closed after sundown and that they do not look out the windows during the night. If you hear anything outside, anything at all, please do not investigate it. If you follow those 2 rules, you will have a perfectly comfortable stay. Don't look out the windows. That's correct. Why? She looked at me for a moment. Then she looked down at the desk. Those are the rules of the property. Guests who follow them have no issues. And guests who don't, she didn't answer. She slid the laminated card across instead. 2 bullet points. Keep curtains closed after sundown. Do not look outside during the night for any reason. And underneath in smaller text, these guidelines have been in place since 1995. We thank you for your cooperation. I picked up the key and the card. Room 6. I sat in room 6 for an hour before dark, trying to talk myself into leaving. The room was clean, normal, A bed, a desk, a bathroom, a television. The curtains were thick, heavy blackout curtains. They overlapped in the center by several inches. I kept looking at them. I am a rational person. I do not believe in the supernatural. I believe in explanations. I told myself the rules were liability protection. Someone had looked out a window. Years I've been back home for 6 weeks now. I sleep with every light on. I have cove, hence the rules. Hence the laminated card. Simple. I turned the television on. I watched 2 hours of old sitcoms. I did not touch the curtains. I woke up at 2 a.m. Not gradually, not the slow surfacing of normal sleep. I went from completely unconscious to completely awake in an instant, the way you wake up when something has made a sound. I lay in the dark and listened. Nothing. The room was silent. The curtains were closed, exactly as I'd left them. I listened for another full minute. Nothing. I told myself it was the unfamiliar environment. New place, new sounds. The brain invents threats in unfamiliar spaces because unfamiliar spaces were historically where threats lived. I closed my eyes. Then I heard it. Outside the window. I need to be very precise here because this is the part I have never been able to explain. And I want to get it exactly right. It was not a voice. It was not footsteps. It was not an animal, and it was not the wind, and it was not a car or a machine or anything mechanical. It was more like pressure. A sound that was less a sound and more a change in the quality of the silence outside the window. Like the silence itself had shifted into a different kind of silence. The way silence changes when a very large thing enters a room. Not because the large thing makes noise, but because its presence displaces the air around it, and that displacement has a frequency just below what the ear can properly process. I lay completely still. The pressure moved slowly along the outside of the wall, past the window, past the head of my bed. I could track its movement not by hearing it, but by feeling it. The way you feel a change in air pressure in your chest before a storm arrives. It stopped directly outside the window, 2 feet from my head. On the other side of the curtain, I did not move a single muscle for what felt like 20 minutes. I lay there breathing as slowly and as quietly as I could, and I kept my eyes on the ceiling, and I did not move. The pressure outside the window did not move either. It just waited. Not hovering, not standing, waiting. Like whatever was on the other side of that curtain was doing exactly what I was doing, staying completely still and listening for me. And then I thought about the laminated card. Do not look outside during the night for any reason. And I thought, why specifically look? Why is looking the thing they warn you against? Why not? Do not open the door. Do not make noise. Do not turn on the lights. Just do not look. What is it about looking? That single question sat in my chest like a stone and would not move. I need to tell you what I did next, and I need you to understand that I know it was wrong. I knew it at the time. But there is something about a warning with no explanation attached to it that does something to a certain kind of person, something that bypasses the reasonable part of the brain and goes straight to the part that cannot accept an unanswered question. I am that kind of person. I sat up slowly. The pressure outside the window did not change. I put my feet on the floor. Nothing changed. I stood up. The curtain was 3 feet in front of me, heavy, overlapping in the center, no gap. I reached out toward the edge. My hand was shaking. I told myself, just a fraction, just enough to see, just enough to know. I moved the edge of the curtain, 1 inch, maybe less. I looked through the gap. There was nothing there, the parking lot, the other cars, the vending machine still humming, the road beyond the motel lot empty and dark, nothing, no figure, no animal, no person, no shape of any kind. Nothing. I stood there with my heart hammering, and 1 inch of curtain pulled aside, and I felt simultaneously relieved and deeply foolish. I laughed quietly to myself. I let the curtain fall back. I turned around to go back to bed, and every single light in my room was off. Not dimmed, not flickering, off. All of them simultaneously. Like something had reached in and turned them all off at the exact moment I looked away. I stood in total darkness, and I didn't move, and I did not breathe, and I thought it was waiting for me to look away from the window. It was not waiting for me to look out. It was waiting for me to look away. I did not sleep again that night. I sat on the bed with my back against the headboard, and I watched the curtain until gray light began to show around its edges, and I knew the sun was coming up. The moment it was fully light, I grabbed my bag and my keys, and I left. I did not stop at the front desk. I did not return the key. I drove out of Millhaven without looking back. When I finally stopped, I searched for Millhaven on my phone. Nothing. I searched for the motel, for the gas station address, for Duskfield Road, the name of the road I had driven in on, which I had memorized specifically because I knew I would need it. Nothing. Duskfield Road does not exist according to any map I have found. Neither does Millhaven. When I got home, I spent 3 days searching for anything. Any record, any mention, any forum post or news article containing the word Millhaven. I found one thing. A scanned image of a local newspaper. The date was partially cut off, but the year was visible. The headline read, "Residents report third unexplained incident this month. Local officials urge caution after dark." The article was mostly too degraded to read, but one sentence in the third paragraph was legible. Authorities have been unable to identify what residents describe as a presence outside homes and businesses during overnight hours, noting only that in each reported case, the incidents ceased immediately upon the subject averting their gaze. It stops when you stop looking. It was not waiting for me to look out the window. It was waiting for me to look away. The moment I looked away, it came inside. I have been home for 6 weeks. I sleep with every light on. I have covered every window in my house with blackout curtains nailed to the frames. Not because I'm afraid of what I will see if I look outside, because now I understand the rule. The rule is not do not look outside. The real rule is once you look, do not stop. Because whatever is out there in the dark in Millhaven, and I believe, now it is not only in Millhaven, it cannot reach you while your eyes are on it. It can only move when you look away. And I looked away. For just 1 second in room 6 of a motel that does not exist on any map, on Duskfield Road that no GPS has ever heard of, in a town called Millhaven that has had blackout curtains on every window since 1995. And now every night at 2 a.m., I feel it outside my window at home. 3 states away from where I first made the mistake. The same pressure. The same shifted silence, waiting because it followed me home. And the only reason I'm still here, the only reason I'm alive to write this, is because I have not looked away from my window since. Not once. Not for a single second after dark. So if you ever find yourself in a town you cannot find on any map, and someone hands you a laminated card with 2 rules on it, do not make the same mistake I made, because the warning is not there to scare you. It is there because someone before you looked away, and they were never found.